Temtem Swarm looks like a cute little creature collecting spin-off at first, but give it a few runs and it turns into complete chaos. You've got enemies flooding the screen, attacks firing off everywhere, random players trying to stay alive, eggs following you around, new Temtem unlocking mid-run, and after 20 minutes of madness there's still a final boss waiting for you. That's what caught me off guard. I went into Temtem Swarm thinking it might be one of those games where you play a couple of matches, understand the whole thing, and then move on, but after playing online with random people for around 6 hours, unlocking new Temtem, testing different builds, and pushing into harder levels, I kept wanting to jump back in for one more run, so today I'm going to give you an overview and review of Temtem Swarm. I'll go over how the game works, what makes it fun, where the grind starts to show, what people are saying in the Steam reviews, and whether I think it's worth picking up. The gameplay in the background is all online with random players, no organised team, no voice chat, just jumping in trying to survive, unlocking more Temtem, and seeing how far we could get. That might actually be the best way to experience this game, because Temtem Swarm is one of those games where a run starts off fairly relaxed. You're moving around, picking up experience, choosing a few upgrades, and getting used to your Temtem. Then, 10 or 15 minutes later, the screen is full of enemies, everyone is dodging for their life, abilities are flying everywhere, and you're just trying to hold the run together. So what is Temtem Swarm? The simple way to explain it is this. It's a roguelike survivor game set in the Temtem universe, instead of the normal Temtem gameplay, where you're traveling around, catching creatures, and battling trainers. This game is all about surviving waves of enemies. You move around the map, your attacks happen automatically, you collect experience, you level up, you pick upgrades, and as the match goes on, your Temtem gets stronger and stronger. It has that familiar survivor style setup, a bit like Vampire Survivors but with Temtem creatures, online co-op, evolutions, skill trees, and little objectives that pop up during the match. When you start a run, you begin with 2 Temtem in your team. You can play with up to 3 players in total, and each match lasts around 20 minutes. If you survive long enough, you then fight a final boss at the end. I think that 20-minute length works pretty well. It gives you enough time to build your Temtem up, get some upgrades going, complete a few objectives, and then have that proper final test at the end. At the start of the game, you have 2 starter maps. As you keep playing, you unlock harder levels, and those harder levels give better rewards. That gives the game a decent sense of progression. You're not just replaying the same map over and over with nothing to show for it. You're unlocking new Temtem, you're improving skill trees, you're pushing into harder stages, and slowly you start feeling stronger each time you play. The main gameplay loop is very easy to understand. Enemies come at you from all sides, you keep moving, you collect experience, and every time you level up, you choose an upgrade. Some upgrades make your attacks stronger, some help you survive longer, some change the way your build works. At the beginning of a match, your Temtem can feel pretty basic. You might only have a couple of attacks, and you're mostly just trying not to get trapped. But after a few upgrades, things start coming together. Your attacks hit harder. You clear enemies faster, the screen starts filling with effects, and suddenly your build starts feeling like it actually works. That's one of the best parts of the game. You start small, but over the run, you slowly turn into something much stronger. Temtem Swarm does a good job of giving you that one more run feeling. Even if a match doesn't go perfectly, you usually still feel like you made some progress. One thing I liked more than I expected was the mini quest system. During a match, little quests pop up every now and then. It feels like every 30 seconds or so, the game gives you something else to do. That helps a lot because it stops the gameplay from becoming too passive. In some survivor-style games, you can get to a point where you're just walking around in circles, waiting for enemies to die and collecting experience. Here, the quests give you something else to think about. You're watching where the objective is, you're checking where your teammates are going, you're deciding whether it's worth taking a risk to complete something. It makes the match feel more active. One of the quests I liked the most was the egg quest. With this one, you get an egg that follows you around. You have to survive while the timer runs down. Once the timer finishes, you unlock a new Temtem. It's a simple idea, but it fits the game really well. Even though this isn't a normal creature catching game, that egg quest still gives you that feeling of building a collection. You're not catching Temtem in the traditional way, but you are still unlocking new ones, trying them out, and seeing which ones you enjoy using. At the moment, there are 13 Temtem in the game. Some of them can evolve once or twice as you level them up during a run. When they evolve, they get better stats and feel stronger. That gives each match a nice sense of growth. You're not just picking random upgrades from a menu, you're actually watching your Temtem get stronger as the run goes on. Each Temtem also has its own skill tree and unique skills. That is where the longer term progression comes in. Unlocking a Temtem is only the first step. Once you have it, you still need to play with it, earn rewards, and unlock more of its skill tree. So if you like having things to work towards, there is definitely plenty here. After around 6 hours, I had unlocked about half of the Temtem, but I still had loads left to do. There were still plenty of skill tree upgrades locked. There were harder levels to push into, and there was still more Temtem to unlock. So if you're trying to unlock most of the game and build out a lot of the skill trees, I'd say you're probably looking at around 20 hours or more, maybe longer, depending on how much you want to complete. Now let's talk about what people are saying on Steam, because the reaction seems a bit mixed. A lot of players seem to like the idea of the game. They like the Temtem style, they like the creature designs, they like the co-op, and they like that survivor style gameplay loop where you keep jumping back in for another run. I completely get that side of it. When Temtem Swarm is working well, it is genuinely fun. It's easy to understand, it looks nice, the creatures are cool, and once your build starts getting stronger, it feels really satisfying to play. But not everyone is happy with it. One of the biggest complaints seems to be the grind. Because every Temtem has its own skill tree, you do have to put time into each one if you want to make real progress. Some players are going to enjoy that. They'll like having a long-term reason to keep playing. Other players are going to feel like it is too slow. They might feel like unlocking things takes too long, or that the game expects too many repeated runs before you really start getting everything you want. I can see both sides. For me, the grind didn't bother me too much because I was still enjoying the actual matches. But if you're the kind of person who wants unlocks to come quickly, this might start to annoy you. Temtem Swarm is definitely a game that expects you to replay runs. It wants you to try different Temtem, build up their skill trees, unlock better rewards, and slowly push into harder content. So if you enjoy that type of progression, there's a lot to work towards. If you hate grinding, that could be one of the main things that puts you off. Another thing people have mentioned is the online side, and that does matter because co-op is one of the main reasons a lot of people will want to play this. Some players have talked about disconnects and technical problems. The developers have been patching the game, so that may improve over time, but it is still worth keeping in mind. For me, I had a good time playing with randoms. But if you're buying this mainly for online co-op, I check the latest reviews first just to see how stable the game is when you're looking at it, because when the co-op works, it adds a lot. Playing with random people was one of my favorite parts of the game. You don't need voice chat, you don't need a perfect team build, you don't need everyone to know exactly what they're doing. Everyone has the same basic goal: survive, complete quests, level up, unlock rewards, and try to make it to the boss. That makes it very easy to jump into. You can usually tell what people are doing just by watching how they move around the map. Sometimes everyone sticks together, sometimes people split off to complete objectives. Sometimes one player gets into trouble and the rest of the team has to try and keep the run alive. And sometimes everything just falls apart. But even then, it can still be fun. The last few minutes of a match are where the game is at its best. That's when the screen gets completely packed with enemies. Your abilities are firing off constantly. Your teammates are trying to stay alive, and you're just trying to survive long enough to reach the final boss. It gets messy, but in a good way. I also like that the match doesn't just end when the timer runs out. You still have that final boss fight waiting for you. That gives the run a proper ending. It feels like the match is building towards something. You start weak, you level up, you complete quests, you unlock rewards, you get stronger. Then the boss is the final test. If your build is good and your team holds together, you can beat it. But if your build isn't strong enough or your team starts falling apart, you can still lose right at the end. That makes the final few minutes feel much more intense. One thing I really enjoyed was unlocking new Temtem. Every time I unlocked one, I wanted to try it straight away. Each Temtem has its own skills, its own playstyle, and its own progression. Some of them might click with you straight away, others might take a few runs before they start to feel good. Either way, it gives you a reason to keep experimenting. It's not just about unlocking more damage, it's about finding which Temtem you actually enjoy using. That's where the creature collecting side comes through. Again, this is not a normal Temtem game. You're not walking around catching creatures like you would in the main game, but you still get that feeling of building a collection, trying new creatures, finding favorites, and putting more time into the ones you like. Now, is Temtem Swarm perfect? No, definitely not. The grind might be too much for some people. The online side may still need some work. And if you've already played loads of survivor-style roguelikes, a lot of the basic structure is going to feel familiar. You survive waves, you level up, you pick upgrades, you unlock permanent progression. Then you do it all again. That's the loop. So if you're already bored of this genre, I don't think Temtem Swarm is going to completely change your mind. But I do think the Temtem theme helps it stand out. The creatures give it personality. The evolutions are a nice touch. The egg quests are cool. The co-op makes the runs more fun. And the skill trees give you a reason to keep playing after each match. For me, the game worked because it was easy to jump into, but still gave me something to chase. I didn't have to think too hard, but I still felt like I was making progress. Even if I didn't unlock a new Temtem in a run, I was still earning rewards. I was still improving skill trees. I was still getting closer to the next unlock. That made me want to keep going. After around 6 hours, I still felt like there was plenty left to do. I had only unlocked about half of the Temtem. I still had loads of skill tree upgrades left, and I still wanted to try more characters, more builds, and harder stages. So overall, would I recommend Temtem Swarm? Yeah, I would, but mainly to the right kind of player. If you like roguelike survivor games, if you enjoy online co-op, and if you like the idea of collecting and upgrading Temtem, then I think there's a good chance you'll enjoy this. If you're here because you love the Temtem universe, just remember that this is not the same kind of game as the original Temtem. This is much more about surviving waves, building upgrades, and replaying runs. And if you're here because you like games like Vampire Survivors, then this gives you that familiar gameplay style, but with a creature collecting twist. My final thoughts are pretty simple. I had fun with it. I played with random people online. I unlocked new Temtem. I enjoyed the progression. And after each run, I usually wanted to play another one. It does have some grind, and the online side is something to keep an eye on, but the core game is enjoyable. So if you like this style of roguelike gameplay, and you like the idea of collecting and upgrading Temtem, then Temtem Swarm is worth checking out, and that's my overview and review of Temtem Swarm. Let me know in the comments if you've played it, and which Temtem you've been using the most. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more reviews and gameplay, and I'll see you in the next one.